everybody. Welcome to We'll See You in Hell. You know that this podcast is part of the FANGORIA Podcast Network. That's how you found it. For more information about the network, including other programs, how to follow us, or find other episodes of We'll See You in Hell, visit fangoria.com. Now on with the show. It actually says that in the text.
Oh, that's nice.
It says, now on with the show. I didn't write it. Ken at Fangoria wrote it.
Do you know of a comedian, Asian, obviously, named by the name of Henry Cho?
Yes.
Is he still out there working?
I think so. I don't know him personally.
Okay. His whole thing was he was an Asian guy with a southern accent.
Yeah.
And he used to host Friday night videos, which was the only way I could see music videos because I didn't have MTV when I was a kid.
Right.
And every time coming back from commercial, they would go, and now back to the Joe! Exactly like that.
Really?
Which I actually thought was sort of a funny way to say it to get around the terrible pun.
Now, speaking of puns,
Sure.
we got a lot to cover here tonight. All right, we're talking Ghostbusters on this episode, but before we get to it, the new one. Well, probably all things Ghostbusters, but before we get to it, speaking of puns, I'm at a party last night.
Okay.
Everybody had a few drinks. Everybody had smoked a little bit of reef, but we were all
Don't
feeling.
approve of that, but all right.
We were all feeling good.
Sure.
And I'm with Georgia, who is our friend Vince Averill's wife, and also Georgia Hartsocker, also a very funny comedian and
Co-host
successful.
of the my favorite murder podcast. Shout out. Her and Karen Kilgariff do a fantastic job discussing murders, and that podcast has already blown this one out of the water. So I guess I don't need to recommend it, but it's great.
They're in the top 10 consistently. They got shouted out in Rolling Stone this week.
I saw it.
Pretty great. So
A couple of dorks on Twitter shouted us out.
yes, well that's nice. I don't mind it. I love.
We are dorks. We do this for dorks. We live for the dorks.
And I just would like to send my compliments over to Party McFly on Twitter for just coming out boldly shitting on Tremors.
But then immediately someone came up and said, you're an idiot.
Yes.
So those are the dorks I was referring to. Only because the one I hated that he agreed with you. I couldn't quite handle that.
I loved it. And then equally hated when the other man disagreed with me.
I also think it's crazy that the guy's actual Christian name is Party McFly.
I can't believe it.
Speaking of party, perfect transition. You're out with Georgia Hartsock.
Yeah.
A little
and
detour and right back in.
Party McFly, that's another pun.
Yeah.
Right?
Joe, take us back to the future and tell us the story, if you would. God, I'm good.
So we're talking Friday night. Vince Averill, our dear friend and comedian, he and I went to see the Art of Rap tour.
Yep.
At the Palladium, which you bought tickets. You got us tickets and you weren't able to attend, unfortunately. But we went to the show.
Don't worry, I only lost $40 on my ticket.
Yeah, well,
which I did to myself. I'm well aware.
So we're at the show, or we go to the show. It was a great time. It was Ice-T, Public Enemy, Mobb Deep, BPMD, Curtis Blow, Busy Bee. It was nuts. It was great. So I'm at the party the next night. I'm standing with Georgia and a writer who I'm not going to name,
Okay.
but whom I've worked with, sort of.
Uh-huh.
And I've never, ever had a problem with the guy. We've always got along smashingly. It's always been very endearing.
Okay.
A lot of smiles. How you doing? Great stuff.
Can't wait till I hear this person's name off mic.
So we're sitting there talking about the concert, and I said my favorite part of the whole concert was the T-shirt that Flavor Flav was wearing.
Right.
And they said, what was the T-shirt? And I said, 10 years ago, my friend Jim Pinkstone gave me a T-shirt for Christmas, and it was the Warner Brothers symbol.
Yes.
And it said, if you see the police, Warner Brother. And I thought it was a really funny play on words.
That's
and
pretty good.
And also a solid social commentary.
Very solid.
So Flavor Flav, I've never seen the shirt otherwise.
Right.
Flavor Flav comes running out 10 years later. He's got the shirt on. I'm going crazy.
Right.
I called Jim the next day. I'm freaking out. Can you believe he was wearing the shirt? I'm telling this story at the party, and as I'm telling it, I'm laughing because I go, it's just such a brilliant pun. It just really makes me laugh.
Yeah.
And we're all enjoying it, and George is going, that's really cool. This writer, okay, cuts in, and he just goes, huh, you don't read much, do you?
Ugh.
This is what he says. You don't read much, do you? Now, it's so insulting, and I'm so high, I'm like, you're imagining this.
Right.
This isn't happening. The weed is getting the better of you right now.
Yeah.
And I go, I'm sorry, why? What do you mean? Wait, what do you mean? And he goes, you don't read much, do you? And he goes, it's not that good of a pun, dude.
Oh.
And I go, wow. And then Georgia steps in and goes, well, he didn't say it was the greatest thing ever written. He just said he thought it was funny, and he thinks it's funny. That's all. And I go, yeah. And then the guy starts trying to backpedal, and he goes, dude, believe me, none of us have the right to tell each other what's funny or not. None of us have the right to do that. And then I go, well, it is Hollywood, so maybe we should be telling each other what should or shouldn't be funny, right, buddy? And then he gets paranoid, and he's like, what are you doing? What the fuck's that supposed to mean? What are you doing now? What are you doing now?
Oh,
and I just go, I'll see you, man. I got to go to the bathroom. And then I go to the bathroom, and as Vince is coming out of the bathroom, going into the room adjacent to it where I just was, he's walking out, and I yell the guy's name. I go, da-da-da-da-da, it's getting real weird in there with me.
I'm getting paranoid hearing this story.
Which I think he might have heard because he disappeared from the party after he just snuck out.
Quickly putting my needs above the listeners, can you cover your mic and mouth who it is?
Sure. Did you get that?
No, one more time. One more time. Oh, okay, yes.
You know who I'm talking about?
I do. I do
Yeah.
indeed.
What do you think of that guy?
Never met him, and I can't talk about him at all now, so I won't. I like one thing he did. I know that.
I'm a fan of the man's work.
Yeah. Okay, great.
It's always been a heavy exchange of compliments every time I see him. I don't understand where he... Maybe he thought it was funny and it came out wrong and then didn't have the guts to just be like, hey, dude, I'm sorry. I meant to be funny and that was shitty.
Yeah. You know, like, there's some people where it's just their fucking tone, whereas if you were talking about it's an amazing pun and I'm sitting on the couch and I go, it's not that great a pun, Joe. We'd all laugh and move past, and you'd be like, fuck you, or whatever.
Right.
But somebody who says something like that very seriously, like his opinion is correct, you're stupid for feeling that way.
Right.
There's nothing affectionate about it, and it really ruins the evening.
And then also, I don't know you like that.
Yeah, true.
I know you like that.
It's part of
you
it as well.
Make the joke. I go, Pat's fucking with me. This guy says it.
But
I'm
also,
like,
I wouldn't go, you don't read much, do you, in a serious tone of voice?
you don't read much. As he was condescendingly laughing at me. Mm-hmm. This, by the way, then sent me into, I mean, you can imagine the paranoia spiral from here on out for the rest of the night.
Sure.
I mean, I thought everybody was working against me.
Was I crazy back there with that guy? A lot of that.
I didn't say any of that.
Okay.
I just quietly interpreted every conversation I was having from that point on as somebody just dressing me down and secretly hating me. I mean, it doesn't put you on the right track.
Sure.
You know, I had just...
I'm glad I never go that way with any of that stuff, really.
Oh,
I keep it pretty light.
You mean in conversation?
I mean with mind-altering drugs.
You don't get paranoid, you mean?
No, I don't. You know, if I smoke a little bit, I don't sit and be like, oh, everybody's out to get me. I don't have that.
I wasn't having it till that happened, and then it's like, well, anything's possible at this point.
Yeah.
When something like that happens, you go, well, at any point, any person in this party that I think is a friend of mine could just turn on me, evidently.
It's very true.
It doesn't. It's terrible. Now, before again we get into the movie, Pat, we got an elephant in the room. We need to address it. Pat and I had a little tiff last week.
We did.
It wasn't that bad. No, there was no yelling. It was all done via text.
Yeah, I think you're always calling, and I don't answer. And I kept waiting for the call, and it didn't come. And I was like, these texts, no one's getting their point across. This isn't going well.
Didn't call out of respect for your "I hate the phone" thing, and I was like, it
would have helped.
I felt like the last thing I needed to do was call you, and then it's gonna get. I didn't know what was gonna happen, but
it was a scheduling issue. We, I guess on Tuesday, Joe was like, "Are you free to do the podcast this weekend?" Because Joe's about to leave for a comedy tour.
Edinburgh Fringe Fest.
And Edinburgh.
Dublin Vodafone Comedy Fest.
And he said, "Are you free this weekend?" I go, "Yeah, it should be fine." Next day, I'm supposed to get notes on a script Folks, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. There were no notes on that script. They were like, it's beautiful, baby. We'll see you Monday. I'd already been off a week at this point.
Right.
I'm like, all right, I guess I'll take another week.
Yeah.
Heather, my girlfriend, is going to Europe for 3 weeks tomorrow.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? Heather, let's go to Vegas.
Right.
She's off. I say, fine. I tell Joe, look, I can't make the podcast. So can we just reschedule? Joe's like, well, I'm leaving Wednesday. I'm like, all right, can we do it Monday or Tuesday? No. Can we do it Sunday after your shows? No, I got an early day Monday. And there was the rub.
Right.
Because then that got switched, and you didn't have an early day Monday, and this worked out perfectly. If that had been the case, we would have been like, all right, I'll see you then, dear friend.
Right, of course.
But
of course. And of course, had I known initially this was like Heather was going away and whatever, I would have.
Yeah, I wasn't pulling that card or anything because I didn't think it was serious. And then all of a sudden I was like, I don't care for this motherfucker's tone. I didn't care for it. I was like, well, we should have, I wish we would have talked about this. I've been sitting home with nothing to do for 2 or 3 days. And you were like, we did talk about it yesterday. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Well, that wasn't the tone of that text.
That wasn't the tone of that text. But when I saw it, I was like, I don't like this. The period, we did talk about it, period, yesterday, period. I was like, nope. It's getting a little fresh.
Well, I also thought the comment you made was fresh when you said, I wish we'd have talked about it. I just been sitting home because on Sunday, I tried to convince you to go out an hour earlier, and you're like, I can't. I got to do I am buried with this script, man. So I was like, obviously.
And you know what? That extra hour probably got me that no-note review.
Well, look, first of all, let me say that I'm not too small a man to say I'm happy about the no notes thing.
Thanks, I am too.
You know. Second of all, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're sitting here.
It worked out great. You know, I was like, the text exchange was getting a little weird, and I explained to Joe I've never really had a fight with any friend of mine that I can recall. Maybe, 1 or 2 giant ones in my life, but never anything big. It's like we always seem to dip into little heated patches.
Well, I would like to address that, actually.
Please.
I did some math. Our last heated tiff, November.
Yeah, no, that's not bad.
Not bad at all.
That's not bad.
Not bad at all.
But I said, Joe, we're just too similar. You
Yes.
said it's all out of love. We were saying the same thing. We're too similar. But
Yes.
I said, if it's not going to, if you can't make it work Monday or Tuesday, I don't know what to tell you. And you're like, just be here at 3 on Sunday. And I'm like, well, now, then I'm leaving a vacation early. And I said I could probably make it, and I think I will. But if I hit traffic, we might be fucked. And at this point, we're still kind of dancing around a potential explosion. But we just kind of keep stating our cases. And then
I didn't go just be here. I said, can you please just be here by 3 o'clock on Sunday?
Yeah, and I said I absolutely will and will do my level best. I was back today by 2, actually. But I said, I don't know if I can't say for sure I'll be there.
Right.
You don't know with Vegas and the traffic. I realize that kind of sucks. You're like, if we don't do it then, we're not going to do it. We're going to get backed up. Then here's where I hit a snag, folks. I'm telling Joe now I didn't mean this the way it came across, and I'm telling you, the listener. I said, this is an unpaid podcast, which it is. We do it out of love.
Right.
It's not a priority of mine, period. At all, period.
Period. Yeah.
Inspired by Joe's other period. not a priority of mine at all. And what I really meant by that was we're doing this for free, out of love for you, the listener, and we should never be bending over backwards or like stressing out over trying to make it. But then again, I'm not going out of town for 2 months either. But I said that, and as soon as I explained, it's not what I meant. Joe apologized. It usually takes me an extra day to work up to an apology. Joe nipped it in the bud quickly, and all was fine.
Yeah, a few hours later, I sent you a text, which was 100% true. For some reason, started reading the Wikipedia bios of the What's Happening cast.
Okay.
Got to Fred rerun berries, and I mean, it is some dark stuff, man.
I would imagine.
It's
some bad times.
It's typical. It's typical, like the typical Hollywood story. It's like the guy's on a hit sitcom. Yeah. He's a millionaire.
Yeah.
He's 300 pounds. It gets canceled because he whatever, I don't know. His reps claim it's because they didn't give him enough money, and if they did, it would have been a better show, and it wouldn't have gotten all this stuff. He thinks like, I'm the star. I'll be fine. Of course, he's not fine.
Yeah,
he's not in anything. He can't get out of the rerun shadow.
Right.
Married
big shadow.
6 times in his life.
Yeah.
6 times. Becomes an alcoholic and a drug addict. Gets clean. Does What's Happening Now. Again, leaves after the first season. You know, I think because like he wants more money or whatever.
Yeah.
And then ends up the rest of his days being like rerun at things, like showing up in, at best, music videos,
right,
and at worst, the face of a West Virginia real estate company or something like that, where it's like
money's green.
Yeah, and the way he said it was, he goes, I'm the Ronald McDonald of real estate. And it's like, no, you're not. You are for that little company that I don't know.
Yeah, Ronald McDonald isn't, South Dakota's local pub's spokesperson.
It was really a rough ride. And then he died at like 50.
Yeah,
so
I didn't want that to happen to us.
I was sitting there going, life's too short and this town is too sick. This is stupid. And that's when I texted you, and the lead sentence was sitting here reading a haunting bio about Fred Rerun Berry.
Yes. We both apologized, and then, how the fight ended, Joe used the word offensive. Like, that is offensive to me about 8 times in a text. And I was like, all right, Joe's upset. Let this one blow over. I get a text from Vince, our friend who we mentioned earlier. Hey, I guess Joe's asking me to do the podcast with him this weekend. I'm like, that motherfucker. I almost pull over the car, and I'm like, do it, because I'm out, baby. Like, and then immediately it was all washed under the bridge. I was like, he can be a damn guest, but you can't do We'll See You in Hell with Pat and Joe. Scratch out Pat, right in Vince.
No, he was a guest for 1 episode, that's all.
No, I know.
Yeah, he wasn't, nobody was replacing Pat Walsh. That wasn't happening.
I would have walked.
And then I sat here getting sad, thinking it's not going to be the same.
Sure.
And
well,
the people,
we're different people.
The people, what are the people going to say?
Yeah.
And then
Vince doesn't need the abuse of the online community comparing him to me. He'll never get out of bed again.
And you also, in a very nice gesture, after we all made up and everything, you said, hey, dude, if you still want to have Vince guest, I don't mind sitting out one. And I said, of course not.
Yes.
Like, we're doing this. It's season 3.
Yeah,
new format. Let's get back to basics.
I didn't even come in here with any degree of tension and might not have even remembered. I would have remembered it, but it wasn't on my mind.
It wasn't on my mind other than, I guess it's only proper to address that happened in some way. And because we're Hollywood phonies, we do it live on a podcast.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
We exchanged 7 words before we hit record.
Well, yeah, Joe starts talking about his opinion on Ghostbusters. I'm like, why don't you hit the damn record button? We're talking about Ghostbusters on a podcast.
Let's get to it before we're the...
Yeah. Well, I had said if we're going to do a guest format, which I was never even really seriously discussed, but I was like, we need to get in Karen Kilgariff, our dear friend.
Yes.
To talk about Ghostbusters, because who wants to hear another couple white dudes talking about Ghostbusters? But I think we have a point of view that is both supportive of the cause and also, I think, a more realistic representation of what that movie is.
Yeah.
And I tweeted, and Karen immediately shut out at me. And when I was like, if Karen's a little miffed, this needs to come down, because Karen's the best and other people might go nuts. All I said was afterwards, after the movie, I tweeted out, I don't care about Ghostbusters. I love women. I don't believe you liked Ghostbusters as much as you say you did.
Right.
Was basically the gist of it. And Karen, when I scrolled back, had posted a glowing review of it on Twitter. I was like, she probably thought that was about her.
Right.
Wasn't, hadn't seen it.
Right.
We ran into some people at the theater. I was like, yeah, you can see it in their eyes when you talk to people that they didn't love the movie. But they have to say they love it, and I don't get it. So my point was, Spy, you and I saw it together as well.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I love all 4 women in Ghostbusters. I think are 4 of the funniest women in the world.
Yes.
I didn't laugh at the movie. Spy, Melissa McCarthy. It's a big budget action comedy starring a woman. Why did this whole thing not happen then? Why wasn't it, oh, you have to like Spy? A lot of people thought Spy sucked. We thought Spy sucked.
I think because there wasn't the online backlash. There was such a misogynistic backlash to a female Ghostbusters that this movie sort of became a beacon for feminism and for women, the hope of women in general, which I understood.
But there are many, like I think the biggest box office hit of the past couple of years is Gravity, probably, starring Sandra Bullock. That's why I don't really understand.
It was because of the reaction. So that's what. But
Yes.
that's interesting that you bring it up, because that's what bothered me about this whole thing was. I turned to you after the cold open. I go, I'm in.
Yeah,
This is great. I laughed heartily for about 30 minutes, and then it got to a place where I was like, okay, this really isn't good anymore, and like this has been like a rough patch in the movie, and then it never got better, and then it just kept being sort of cheesy. It like was making less and less sense as it went along. It was more taped together as it went along. Whatever. I don't care. I'm not mad at it. It's just like it is what it is. It's like I would not give the movie a passing grade structurally as a film. What bothered me was I've gotten some shit for that from people because and I gotta say there are just as many more women that I've said to I didn't really like it, understood what I was saying, than women that attacked me needlessly.
Sure.
But I have gotten a few like cheap jabs from some women that I'm friends with actually because I didn't like it, and they sort of try to twist it into some sort of sexist perspective. And my response to that is, hey, do you own the movie 9 to 5? That's literally the movie about feminism in the workplace.
Right.
That is like so ahead of its time and so groundbreaking. Do you own it? Do you champion that movie to young females when you meet them at comedy shows that say they've never seen it?
Right.
Because I do. And I don't do that for a pat on the back. I literally genuinely say to, like, if I meet like a 22-year-old comic who's a girl that's never seen it, I go, you got to see this movie. This is the feminism movie. Yeah. It's amazing. It's hilarious.
I love it.
It's a grand slam movie. So it's like I just didn't think. I thought Ghostbusters. I've said, and I do mean this. I've said many times since I've seen it, if the original cast of Ghostbusters was in that movie, I would have left saying they somehow made a worse sequel than Ghostbusters 2, and I don't know how that was possible. Could have been possible.
Yeah.
And everybody is.
By the way, the worst links in the movie are Bill Murray, for Christ's sake. He comes in, it's the least funny he's ever been, including his dramas. And then when he comes back for that second scene, dressed in like a jaunty tweed suit and a cartoon hat, I'm like, okay, here comes the funny scene. And then I thought to myself, and I don't think this is the case, is this some sort of meta commentary by Paul Feig and the writer Katie Dippold that they have every man in the movie be a very underwritten, boring, not particularly funny, interesting character because that's what women usually have to deal with? I don't think that's the case. You have Bill Murray in your movie, you want him to be funny.
If that is the case, it should have been done better and more apparently because it wasn't.
They gave
wasn't
Hemsworth
apparent.
some jokes, I guess.
The Liam Hemsworth character is
Chris
Hemsworth. Is it Helms or Hems?
Hems.
It's an unbearable character. I mean, it's like it's. Again, I'm not saying that women have not been shittily portrayed in movies.
Of course.
I'm saying that character is not believable.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny at first, then it gets to a point where he's so stupid that you're like, I'm like, my God almighty, there are people with literal major mental deficiencies that are more capable than he is.
Yeah.
As a man with, a functioning brain or a fully functioning brain.
Well,
and it's like
we go to dinner after and we're saying, like, we're at the diner. Hey, I guess I didn't really like it or whatever. And the whole table kind of turned, and me and Joe wound up kind of whispering to each other at the end of the table, and I was very uncomfortable.
It was a bad scene.
And I'm like, what are we? This is Ghostbusters. Like, what? It's a movie for children.
And that's what this town does to people.
Yeah,
they put us against them, and then we turn on each other days later.
I also didn't say I hate this fucking shit. I said, I didn't really like it or whatever. And people put so much into that. All Karen said to me on Twitter was, "Oh, but you love Who's Harry Crumb." Well, I do.
Right.
I can't help what I like and what I don't. I know that one makes me laugh and Ghostbusters didn't.
Here's my thing.
I shat on the original Ghostbusters last episode.
Yeah,
I didn't shit on it, but it's a little overrated. And this new one, I only wanted it to be good. I didn't walk in arms folded like try and entertain me.
Well, I felt the same way. I am not a Ghostbusters protector. I think the first movie is a solid film from the 80s.
It's a good movie,
We talked about it last week. I never have the urge to watch it. I think the sequel and everything that came after is awful. None of it's good.
Sure.
And what bothered me about this movie is I wanted it to be great. I was excited, and then you got like Melissa McCarthy, who's downright hilarious, and you give her barely any funny shit to do. I thought Leslie Jones was the funniest person in the movie. They did the same thing with Wig. They kind of like she's kind of like the awkward Kristen Wiig character for a while, but like it seemed like they were throwing everything to Kate McKinnon and Leslie Jones, and they were funny.
Yeah,
but that doesn't take away from the fact that I'm watching the other two and going like, why aren't these two getting any like?
Leslie Jones was funny. I will say I didn't laugh at the movie at all, but I thought Leslie Jones was the funniest. Wig and McCarthy, they're not playing to their strengths, and it's almost like they were like, "Hey, don't make us the zany one this time," or what? I don't know what they thought, but neither one of them. They were endearing. They were likable. They always are.
I was upset that there was no Melissa McCarthy scene where she's like, "You fucking cocksucker, ghost motherfucker." Like I'm like, and I know they couldn't have said that because it wasn't R.
Or create the Christmas Vacation. He rants for 2 minutes, screaming, and he doesn't cuss. It's just like get creative with it. But McKinnon, the things I've seen on Twitter, like a true game changer. I was weeping when McKinnon started shooting the ghosts, and she was one of the greatest comedic performances of all time. I read. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I guess I can believe people if they said they're crying when Kate McKinnon is shooting ghosts because it was women empowerment. But folks, we talked about Alien and Aliens last week as well. It's not the first time it's happened. Of course, women are underrepresented.
Right.
But I don't know why this movie became such a lightning rod, unless it is just the controversy.
I think it's the controversy turned it into that. But I mean, we're getting closer to the meat of the thing, which is why yet another reason why I got upset when anybody was saying to me that it was some sort of gender commentary that I didn't like the film. It absolutely was not. I have shit on this podcast openly. And on other podcasts openly, and in conversation and in public and in workplaces openly about the slew of movies that I think are terrible. Look, when The Night Before came out, we debated. I remember giving you shit. You were like, I think it looks funny. And I remember saying to you, oh, for Christ's sakes, Pat, how many fucking times are they going to make this movie? Oh, they do mushrooms again?
No, it's the only comedy that gets made now is that essential plot.
And I'm not shitting on Seth Rogen, just like I'm not shitting on Melissa McCarthy. But I think a lot of the movies he's in aren't great. And a lot of them suck. Yeah. And so for me, I was like, don't give me the equal quality to a shitty Seth Rogen movie and then tell me it's brilliant. It's not brilliant. It could have been, but if there were men in this movie, I wouldn't have liked it. It wasn't a good movie.
Absolutely not. Many a time I'll shit on a movie on Twitter. I do it all the time, or to people or whatever, and you're stating your opinion, and you wouldn't even think to be paranoid about saying, "Oh, that movie fucking sucked." But something about this, I won't talk about it with people. The couple of times I have been directly asked, I go, I didn't think it was great. And it still causes an uncomfortable exchange with the person you're talking to.
I will say the same thing about, there is a dearth of representation of female characters in cinema, without question. There's a dearth of female directors and writers and producers, without question.
That's the other thing. Maybe a woman should have directed it if it's going to be this.
Well,
I guess they didn't plan on it being this lightning rod. I
don't
guess.
think they did. I think they just thought we're going to go make a fun movie and whatever.
Yeah.
I agree that the white male is overly represented in almost everything.
Of course.
I'll never argue any of that. That being said, I think there needs to be more. I was behind Oscar So White 100%.
Yeah.
I agree with it completely, and I don't think the problem is with necessarily the Oscars. I think that's a byproduct of the bigger problem, which is the projects aren't getting lit to begin with.
Right.
Greenlit to begin with.
We
support
talked
all
about
that
all
stuff,
that on here a while
but you're
back.
never going to get me to say that I think Tyler Perry makes good movies.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think Spike Lee is a fucking genius. I think he makes great work. I think John Singleton's made a lot of great stuff. I'm not going to sit here and say, because we need this, Tyler Perry's Medea's Halloween is good. Like, it's just not. It's not a good movie.
Well, and like,
I actually didn't see that one. That's not out yet. But, any of the other Medea ones I saw.
Medea's Boo. You mentioning Singleton, it wasn't him. It was this guy, F. Gary Gray, who did Friday and The Negotiator.
I love F.
and
Gary
stuff.
Gray.
Very underrated director. Black dude. And he directed a movie, 96, I believe, called Set It Off.
Yep.
Great movie. Vivica Fox, Jada Pinkett, Queen Latifah. They're female bank robbers. They're all black. It made some money, but no one really talks about it anymore. I was shown it in a film class, oddly enough, about how, it's always good to service underrepresented groups, But if Set It Off comes out this weekend, and it's 4 black women and they're bank robbers, I don't think it's getting this talk. I don't think it's guys we got to get out there. And I don't think that's anything racist either. I just think we're just kind of randomly picking what movie it's going to be.
I think you called it a lightning rod earlier. I think that was a perfect term for it. I think what happens with these things, with all of these causes that we all debate and discuss socially, I think something comes along that represents it, and it becomes a very easy way for people to think they're promoting the discussion.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, loving or hating Ghostbusters is not promoting any discussion. No. I am somebody that is 100% of the mindset. When I was watching the movie and I didn't like it that much, I remember thinking to myself, you know what? This is still a moment for women. This is a good thing that's happening.
Yeah.
My opinion doesn't really matter. And then it was when we were casually talking about it, and we were like you said, at the diner, and we were just like, well, it was okay, or whatever, Now that if you're asking, I'm not going to lie.
Right.
I wasn't going to go out of my way to tell anybody I didn't like it,
But it got tense, and you were like,
you're like,
I guess all the guys were worthless, and they all got killed. I guess that was supposed to be part, and the response was like, that's what women have to face every time we go to a movie. Well, that's not true. However, in the scripts I have written, I write for a show with 2 women. Movie scripts always add a woman to the friend group, add an Elaine.
Right.
Seinfeld wasn't the first to do it, but you get a whole other perspective on things. And I'm sure that women get sick of getting sent scripts where it's like, I think Elizabeth Banks once was like, if I handed my script to Jim Carrey and was like, well, you read my part, like if she's playing his wife, the Maura Tierney and Liar Liar role.
Right.
You read my part and tell me how fun it is to be the woman in this movie.
Right.
It's always the woman has no jokes and is there to support the guy in almost every movie.
Sure.
Now a movie that kind of came along and changed that as though it was the first female comedy, which of course it wasn't, was Bridesmaids. Bridesmaids was my favorite movie of that year, probably. I still watch it. I still love it. It's overlong. It's a little padded, but huge laughs. The emotional arc really works. That's 8 hilarious women given the chance to unbelievably shine, play to their strength, written by women, directed by Feig again. But
Feig does mostly female-driven stuff these days. I like The Heat a lot. I think he's got a good focus on empowering women in his films, which I think is a great thing. Doesn't mean every movie's going to be good.
No, and if I love Bridesmaids and hate Ghostbusters, the takeaway from a lot of people right now seems to be, well, then you don't like women. And I saw this, a lot of tweets like, hey, males, nobody wants to hear your fucking opinion on Ghostbusters. It's like, well, but that's all Twitter is. You go, oh, I just saw Get Hard and it sucked.
Well, also too, equality is being able to speak to one another freely.
Yes.
And I'm not saying in terms of negative speech, harassment, and all the shitty other things guys do to women. That all sucks. It's horrible. I'm against it too.
Sure.
But it's like, if we're going to talk...
was a disaster.
It wasn't. I stuck up for her as much as I could because I've been on the receiving end of fucking an army of miserable internet trolls, and it fucking sucks, and you feel alone.
Yeah. And I love her on Twitter. Her live tweeting everything she watches, I think she's fucking hilarious.
And I laughed quite a bit at her in the film. I thought she was very funny. But, like, yeah, all that shit was disgusting, and, you know. But aside from the obvious, which is, you know, the stuff people on Twitter were saying was awful, which, again, maybe it's not that obvious because it took 5 fucking websites blogging about it before Twitter fucking banned anybody from the goddamn thing. Right. But anyway, I'm digressing. My point is that the hell was my point? God damn it. What were we saying?
People harassing Leslie Jones. The thing about people talking shit on Twitter.
Oh, the thing about, like, hey, males, nobody needs your opinions. Shut up. It's like, no, like, that's what equal genders means. It means that if you do something and I don't think it's good, I can say to you constructively, I don't think this was good.
Yeah.
It's not me beating up on you.
Yeah.
It's not me condescending you. It's me saying to you, if this was men doing this, I don't think it would be good. So that's what I'm saying. If you don't want me to say that, well, then that's not equality at that point.
Yeah.
That's pandering, and that's babying. Like, that's not what anybody wants. You don't want to be condescended to.
No. And a lot of the stuff in there, Slimer and his family, Stay Puffed, whatever, it was all just kind of lazy and shittily done, you know? And that had nothing to do with women. Folks, when Ozzy Osbourne, in a joke that would have been dated in 2003, goes, Sharon, am I having an acid trip? Flashback. That happens in this movie. Ozzy Osbourne is randomly standing there. He just divorced Sharon. The joke is over. But, like, how somebody didn't cut it. And that's how I felt about Spy, which I thought was, you know, a pretty, you know, dull movie to me. I didn't laugh. But they devoted 30 minutes to that 50 Cent subplot at the end. 50 Cent hasn't had a hit song in a decade.
Yeah, it was weirdly. Yeah, that was weirdly.
What is this? It just felt awkward and desperate.
No, the Ozzy thing was way out of place. It was a terrible cameo. And as I said to somebody recently when we were talking about the film, I go, it was my exact tap out point of the movie. I go, when they did the same cameo that they did in the Jerky Boys movie, which is a shit show of a film.
Ozzy Osbourne's in the Jerky Boys movie?
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Ozzy comes up and he's like, "Where's the fucking band?"
Yeah.
And then the Jerky Boys are like, "They got a gig with the Monkees. They skipped town." And then Ozzy's like, "The fucking Monkees? You're kidding?" Like,
yeah. It's
just Ozzy coming in and being Ozzy, and it's like, and I love the Jerky Boys. That movie is a pile of shit.
Right.
I want the Jerky Boys to remain successful or be successful again or whatever. But I'm not going to say that the movie they made was good. It wasn't good.
No.
Well,
I think that's all we're saying.
That's it.
And I feel fine, and I feel like we're fine posting it. It was really that weekend where it just felt really terrible. And I had a couple massive tweets about Ghostbusters. I deleted that one pretty quickly. But the other was, by Sunday, all these people that have been saying, if you don't like Ghostbusters, you hate women, are now saying, fuck you, Taylor Swift. You lied to Kanye, America's sweetheart. Like just a trash bag of a human being. And people are like, fuck you, haha. Kim Kardashian got you, Taylor.
Yeah, it's
Go Kim. It's like, what are you doing now? Taylor Swift is one of the most successful women in all of music, in the history of pop music. Really, she does her own shit. She does it her way. You can like it or not. She has strong. She doesn't put her music on certain whatever it is, Spotify, whatever, takes care of her career, handles her business, and everyone's like, "Hey, fuck you, Taylor Swift." I don't get it.
It's I was.
And I'm not saying this as a fan or anything.
It's the thing
of Taylor Swift.
It's the
I don't
thing,
care.
It's the thing that drives me nuts with all the people that, not all the people, with the majority of people that wave a flag for a cause.
Yeah.
Most people don't want to get their hands dirty. And I say it all the time about nonprofits and stuff like that. The battles they choose to fight. The battles they choose to fight. And I'm not saying the battles they choose to fight are worthless battles.
Right.
But it's always a pretty easy battle, a lot of these things.
Yeah.
They're non-controversial battles. It's easy to make a campaign that centers around a movie. It's easy to throw your arms up in the air about something a guy said during a speech that he probably shouldn't have said or whatever.
Yeah.
These are easy battles. They're black and white. They're non-controversial. They're not going to make anybody, from the government to private donations to whatever, who gives you money, feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Or anything. The real fights out there require such sacrifice. If you're going to really get your hands dirty and go out there and get into the real mix of what's happening with true abuse and true violence and true discrimination and all these things, you're going to have to get your hands dirty, and you're also going to make your life a living hell. That's just the way it is. You don't do that kind of work without facing the backlash of all the awful people on the other side of it that hate you for trying to do good. That's not what the average person wants to do. The average person wants to go, look how good I was today. See? And it's like, yeah, good for you, man. You stuck up for a fucking thing that we're all going to forget about in 6 months. Or you told Taylor Swift she was an asshole.
Right. Oh, I feel like that and Ghostbusters are essentially forgotten.
Of course they are.
A week later.
Of course they are.
Ghostbusters did okay business, especially for something of its budget. I wish it had done better, but the people saying the sky is falling, and if everyone doesn't go and talk about how much they love this movie, they'll never make another movie with women in it again.
It's not true.
It's crazy. And, everyone in that, now probably Leslie Jones and definitely McKinnon will be able to have their own projects. Leslie Jones might always, kind of be a supporting role. I don't know about 2 hours of Jones.
Right.
Or McKinnon for that matter, although I liked her way less than most. But Wig and McCarthy can always get a big movie made, They just can.
Right.
And probably, I guarantee Melissa McCarthy's making bigger movies at this point than Ben Stiller, Jim Carrey, Jack Black, whoever.
Totally.
Their stars have fallen. She's the biggest comedy star there is, pretty much. I can't think of anybody bigger.
Totally.
And that's not a joke about her weight. I think she looks fantastic.
Yeah.
And I really love her. I've been writing something forever that I want her to be in.
Well, and here's the thing, too. To take a page out of the Natasha Leggero handbook, when she got all that shit for making that World War II joke on the Countdown New Year's Eve thing, her retort in her blog was, instead of making a big deal out of this stupid joke that I made, where I obviously wasn't trying to hurt anybody, why don't you go donate to like a veterans fund or something like that? So instead of screaming at people that they have to love Ghostbusters when they might not have, why don't you go back and champion the other movies that women have been in that are unsung? McCarthy has quite a few.
Yeah.
Nobody was screaming up and down when Tammy got 11% on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever. It's
and I got to tell you, and people are going to really come at me for this if they want. Tammy, to me, while far from perfect, I had a better time than I did at Ghostbusters.
That's fine.
And that's completely her movie, 1,000%. I didn't see The Boss. I thought it looked pretty funny. I
thought The Boss looked funny too. I wanted to see it.
I just don't know why we're not doing this every time.
That's my point. Kristen Wiig makes tons of movies, many of which are these stellar independent movies.
I talked about probably At That Diner, Welcome to Me, which is one of my favorite movies of that year, and she was beyond amazing in that movie. She should have been nominated for an Oscar. Should have won the Oscar. And I mention it. 9 out of 10 women at this table had not seen the movie, and the one who had was like, I didn't really like it. So it's like, well then, guys.
I mean, that to me, that's far more important of a thing to support. It's like here's a female actor who is making films that probably wouldn't get made if she was not attaching herself to them.
Welcome to Me never would have been made.
And then they turn out to be fantastic movies because she sees it and it gets made, and then people will actually watch it now. But far from a lot of people are watching that. To me, that's the thing. You rally, but again, what does that mean? It means getting your hand. Now, it's not getting your hands dirty, but that's hard work. It's hard work to go. Everybody needs to champion this independent film that was on a shoestring budget, and this. That's a lot harder than just going, shut up, go see Ghostbusters.
Right.
You know, it's a lot easier to say shut up and go see Ghostbusters than jumping into the fight with Leslie Jones and facing a bunch of fucking psychotic racists on Twitter.
Yeah.
You know? And I got to tell you, for the amount of people I saw swooning over Ghostbusters, I didn't see any fucking people in that goddamn fight.
Yeah.
All right? And I did jump in, and I did get her back because I thought it was disgraceful. And I'll tell you, the numbers of people supporting her in that situation were far fewer than the people saying, you got to go see this movie.
I never really say anything serious on Twitter, but and it was the same thing with the police shootings or whatever. I'll retweet something, I'll say something kind of vague about the situation and in general, but like, as far as me going, hey, these guys are assholes who trolled Leslie Jones, I don't know that my voice needs to be heard there. And I guess I can see the point that my negative voice on Ghostbusters doesn't need to be heard either. But at the end of the day, I can sort of pick and choose whatever I want to talk about, and so can you.
I did it out of solidarity as a comic. And I was like, I'm a comic, and I've been in this situation, and it's not a racist one.
Yeah.
I've been in a different situation with probably the same trolls, quite frankly. And I was like, this sucks. You feel all alone.
Right.
You're beyond yourself. You want to rip your hair out. You know, she was literally in tears.
Yeah.
And it's like she needs other comics to step up and be like, hey, we got you, dude. Don't worry about it. Like, this will pass, and keep up the good fight. So, look, in closing,
yes,
Ghostbusters, all of it, from the first one in 1983 to now, none of it's been great.
Absolutely not. The original's kind of funny. It looks a little more dated each year. And what I do like seeing is when people send in their pictures of their little girls in Ghostbusters uniforms with a proton pack. I love it.
All right, keep it above the belt, Pat. This is a Jesus.
I love that they get their their heroes, but I will also say, like, where were you when Pixar's Brave came out?
They were fetuses when Brave came out.
No, I mean, all these people. Everyone has to see Brave this weekend to give kids a positive aroma. Nobody saw Brave. Everybody doesn't like Brave. I just don't know how you can pick and choose. I think, go watch all of Nicole Holofcener's movies. There's a strong, hilarious, excellent female writer-director. I would recommend Enough Said, her most recent with Gandolfini and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. My favorite movie of that year.
I love that movie.
Love that movie. And everything she did before it is equally as good. There's my little part.
All
go
right.
watch that instead of Ghostbusters.
And go
support that woman. She makes her movies for, probably the last $50,000 she has in the bank.
And if you haven't seen it, go buy 9 to 5. Don't rent it. Buy it.
Yeah, it's great.
And it's a wonderful film. Lily Tomlin, Dolly Parton, Jane Fonda, and Dabney Coleman.
Dabney Coleman, guaranteed coffee breath. I think I've said it before. If anyone in the world has coffee breath at all times, it's Dabney Coleman.
I was talking to somebody about 9 to 5, and they were saying that they wished that had been the plot of Ghostbusters, that they, for some reason, needed to kidnap Dabney Coleman.
I'll tell you this: those same four in a remake of 9 to 5, which is a movie that kind of needs a light shown on it, and could very well be updated for a modern audience. That movie would be fantastic.
It would be. Look, and Will Ferrell as the boss. There you go. There's your fucking
there you go.
hit.
And I'll tell you how they did remake 9 to 5 without paying the original people any money. A little movie called Horrible Bosses, starring all men.
Is it the same? It is the same thing, isn't it? Sort of.
It's essentially the same exact thing.
Plugs. Look, by the time this comes out, I'll probably already be in Scotland. So, if you're in if I'm in Dublin right now, come see me in Dublin at the Vodafone Comedy Festival.
Here's your pickup line over there. Hey, are you Irish? Because my penis is Dublin. Just looking at you.
Really? All right. Maybe.
They'll love it.
I was gonna say, hey, Dublin, I've drank so much since I got here. I'm seeing triplin. That's what I was gonna say.
Also good.
That's not really a pickup line, but in all of August, the 2nd through the end of the month, I'll be at the Edinburgh Fringe residency. Go to my website, joederosacomedy.com, for details. All the info's on there, the dates and all that stuff. So I'll see you soon, UK.
Yeah, I'm on some episode of Roadies coming up, the 9th episode. Twitter, Vine, Instagram, the Patrick Walsh. And as always, guys, we love getting your feedback. We screen grab and send them to each other. If you can, at me and Joe with anything, even if you're just talking to me or Joe, because we get a kick out of them.
And thank you for the great reviews.
We had so many 5-star and awesome reviews on iTunes. I was blown away. I went through and read them all. Thank you guys so much for doing that. Appreciate it. Shout out to my lifelong friend Mike Curry, who put up a great one as well. Mike, I know you listen. I love you.
Thank
your
you,
baby.
Mike.
Love your wife. I hope you're doing well.
Oh, one last plug. My fiction column has debuted, despite accusations from certain writers that I don't read much. My fiction column on Fangoria's website is up. Some severe situations. First story is called Something in the Water.
How often are you doing them?
One a month.
One a month. Continuing that one or new ones?
New ones, the anthologies, every month. So next one will be out next month, and go read the new one. I hope you like it. All right. This has been We'll See You in Hell, presentation of the Fangoria Podcast Network, produced by Thomas DeFeo, executive produced by Ken Hanley of Fangoria Entertainment. For press opportunities, advertising, inquiries, and information about We'll See You in Hell, contact Ken. His email is ken@fangoria.com. See you later.